Morning class. In the previous lecture, we have discussed two important voids in the unit cell, namely tetrahedral voids and the octahedral voids. They play a very important role in describing the properties of the material. In today's class, we will going to study couple of example problems which involves the role of these voids in making their corresponding unit cell unique. So before we discuss those example problems, I am quickly revising what we have understood so far vis-a-vis to the tetrahedral and the octahedral voids. So if you remember in the last class, we defined the positions of the tetrahedral void. You can define the position as an empty space which is being formed between three coplanar atoms, which is basically the face-centered atoms, and one of the corner atoms. So in between these four atoms, the empty space which is being created is at 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 along the body diagonal, and its volume is relatively small. So if you take the volume of the tetrahedron to the volume of the unit cell, it is only 1/24th of the size of the unit cell. And if you talk in terms of the largest atom which can fit into this empty space, that is R of void, radius of the void atom, to the radius of the lattice atom, it comes out to be only 0.225. That means the largest possible atom which can fit into the tetrahedral void is having its size, which is only 22.5% of the lattice atom size. So only a small atom can go into the tetrahedral void. Likewise, we have discussed the octahedral voids. The positions of the octahedral void are two different locations. One is the middle of the unit cell, which is the body centered, or you can say the coordinates are 1/2, 1/2, 1/2. And the other octahedral sites lies at the center of the sites. So we have 12 sites, and each center of that site is basically an octahedral void. An octahedron is formed between 6 neighbors. So the coordination number for any octahedral site is 6. And if you talk in terms of the largest atom that can fit into the octahedral void, vis-a-vis to the lattice atom, it is 41.4% of the lattice atom site. So this is also a relatively smaller atom which can go and fit into the octahedral site. But if you compare it with the tetrahedral site, the octahedral site has a relatively larger space. Then we compute the total number of sites that is present in a unit cell. So the central one completely belongs to the unit cell, while the edge centers are surrounded by 4 unit cells. So each octahedral void at the center of the edge is actually being shared between 4 such identical unit cells. So its contribution to the unit cell is only 1/4. And you have total 12 such sites. So 12 each contributing 4. So 1/4. So your effective number is coming out to be 3, and 1 full from the center. That makes the number to be equal to 4. Then we did this mathematics. I am skipping it for the time being. We did it last time. Here was the summary. The coordinate position of the tetrahedral voids was 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, while octahedral voids are either at the body center, which is 1/2, 1/2, 1/2, or along any of the edge center, which is 1/2, 0, 0. If you compute the number of voids in a unit cell, you have 8 tetrahedral voids per unit cell and 4 octahedral voids per unit cell. And if you talk in terms of the number of voids per effective number of atoms, you know, in the unit cell we have 4 atoms, which is effective number of atoms. Voids are 8 vis-a-vis tetrahedral, so 8 divided by 4, that makes 2 voids per atom. And for octahedral voids, we have 4 voids and 4 atoms, so 4 by 4 makes 1 void per atom. So you have to remember the position of tetrahedral and octahedral voids, number of voids per the unit cell, and number of voids per atom. We will frequently require this information. Now we are moving to the example problems. We begin our discussion with the first unit cell type, which is the ionic solids. So ionic solids, as the name suggests, made up of ions, and to make the solid neutral, you require 2 types of ions, namely the anion and the cation. You cannot make a solid only with anion or cation. Why? Because in that case, the overall charge neutrality cannot be maintained and solid will be unstable. So if you have an anion and cation, then there are 3 possible ways by which an anion can be surrounded by a cation. Let's look at the first possibility. The first possibility is shown in the lower right corner. So this is the first possibility. What you can see is your anion, being smaller in size, is occupying the valley that is being created by 4 cations. And this configuration is unstable. Why it is so? It is because the cations which are having same negative charge are in physical contact with each other. You can see the cations are all touching each other, which is actually making the solid unstable. So you cannot have a possible stable configuration with an anion and a cation where an anion sits in the valley but doesn't touch any of the cations. The more stable configuration is the middle one. Let me show that. The middle one is having similar geometry what you have in the previous case. The only difference here is your anion is relatively larger in size, and this time the boundary of the anion touches all its neighboring cations. This is relatively more stable configuration because it separates the opposite cations at a relatively better distance. But still you can see cations are in physical contact with each other. And if you refer the third possible configuration, where you still have even larger anion, which is in the middle of the valley created by 4 cations. Now in this configuration, you can see none of the cations are in physical contact with each other. So this configuration is most stable. Remember, in anion cation distribution, you should have maximum number of anions surrounding a cation and vis-a-vis. That means maximum number of cation should also surround an anion, and maximum number of anion should surround a cation. So if you have that kind of situation, you will have a stable solid. So what we have understood is, to have a stable ionic solid, an anion and cation should distribute in a way that your smaller atom should go in the valley. Now, there is a question whether anion will go at the valley side, that is the center, or the cation will go at the valley side. So remember, out of the two, the smaller one will always go into the valley side. So which one is smaller? The one which is having positive charge, right? And we know an anion has a positive charge, so it occupies
No, sir, a
the
cation
valley
has a
sides.
positive.
The cations are larger and they makes the valley, right?
Sir, but cation has a positive charge.
Okay, let me repeat the entire statement. I think there is a mixture of anion and cation. So let's define the two things. Number one, what is anion, what is cation, and then which one should occupy the valley. At least one thing is clear to everyone from the geometry, that only the smaller atom can go into the valley, right? Everybody agrees up to that point. Now the next
Yes.
question is, if you have two atoms, one which is an anion and the other one which is a cation, then out of the two, only one will go and occupy the valley. Which one will go and occupy the valley? The one which is having smaller physical size. Now, the size of the atom depends on its charge. You know, the atom becomes a positive ion when it loses electron. And when an electron is being lost by an atom, its orbit shrinks, right? So anyone which is having its charge which is positive, then it is having uh, a smaller physical size as compared to the ions which actually receives an electron, because any atom which receives an electron becomes negatively charged, but in the process it acquires an additional electron orbit, and because of that the size of the atom increases. Fine. So the atoms which is having positive charge is occupying the valley, and the atoms which is having negative charge, having a relatively larger size, makes the valley. Now up to this point it is clear. Next question is, the ions which is positively charged is what, and the ions which is negatively charged is what? So in traditional terms, the one which is having negative charge is the cation, and the ions which is having positive charge are the anions. Is it okay?
No, sir.
Okay, what's the doubt now?
Sir, the ion carrying charge is called cation and an ion carrying a negative charge is called an anion.
Ion carrying a negative charge is an anion.
Called anion. Yes, sir.
Sir, you are talking the reverse.
An ion with a negative charge is anion, okay?
Yes, sir.
And an ion carrying a positive charge is a cation. That is what you are saying? I
Yes,
repeat,
sir.
cation is positively charged, anion is negatively charged. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so to avoid confusion, just let's put the signs here so that there would be no further.
Sir, cation has positive charge and anion has negative charge.
Yeah. So let's put that. The anions have, sorry, not here, here. The anions have negative charge and the cations have positive charge. Is it fine now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have three possible configuration between an anion and a cation. Cation occupying the valley being smaller in dimension, right? If it doesn't touches with all surrounding anions, then it is making an unstable configuration. If it is just touching, then the configuration is stable, but it is not the utmost stable state. The utmost stable state is the one when a cation, which is having its dimension larger than the valley, goes and occupies the valley side. In that case, it dislodges the surrounding anions from its distance, from its neighboring side. In a way, now the anions do not touch with each other. So that will be the most stable configuration. Is it fine? Okay, I
Yes,
guess
sir.
there are no doubts. Now, to make an ionic solid, when an anion surrounds a cation and a cation surrounds an anion, you have different number of coordination that can take place. You remember the coordination is the number of nearest neighbor. And in an ionic solid, you will have the neighboring atoms always having opposite charge. So the number of such nearest neighbor in ionic solids is called its ligancy. So if one anion is surrounded by two cations, or say two cations is being surrounded by two anions, then your ligancy is 2. Likewise, if one anion is surrounded by three cations, the ligancy is 3. If one anion surrounds by the four cations, then the ligancy is 4, and so on and so forth. So in the table, we have stated the ligancy, the radius ratio of RC by RA, that is the ratio of cation to an anion, and the physical configuration, that is the geometry, and some examples are also mentioned. For example, if you have the ligancy of 2, then it's a linear structure, because if you have an anion surrounding by cations, then it has to be in the linear geometry. And in such cases, your radius ratio of a cation to anion will vary from 0 to 0.155. So whenever your radius ratio between cation and anion is such that it lies between 0 to 0.155, the structure which it forms is always a linear structure. Or other way to put it is, its ligancy is always 2. But if the radius ratio of cation to anion ranges between 0.155 to 0.225, then it needs to have a ligancy of 3. Ligancy of 3 means it forms a triangular planar structure, which is shown schematically in the diagram, which I am just marking now. So in this diagram, you can say there is a triangular configuration where a cation is occupying the valley region, and its radius ratio with the anion is ranging between 0.155 to 0.225. You remember 0.225 was the transition point where your tetrahedral void is being formed. So if you change the ligancy from 3 to 4, what you get is basically the tetrahedral configuration. You get this particular kind of structure where the valley is being formed between 3 coplanar atoms and one of the corner atom that goes on the top of that. In this case, your radius ratio will lie between 0.225 to 0.414. Remember, 0.414 was the transition point from tetrahedral to the octahedral void. So at 0.414, your ligancy will be 6, where your valley is surrounded by 6 atoms of opposite polarity. And your octahedral coordination is valid up to the radius ratio of 0.732. Beyond this, the ligancy of 8 will take place. That means you have 8 atoms surrounding your valley. This is typically true in the body-centered configuration, where the center of the body is surrounded by 8 corner sites. In this case, the configuration is referred as the cubic configuration because your valley is lying in the middle of the cube and the coordination is with the corner. In this case, your radius ratio ranges from 0.73 to 1. And the last possible configuration, which is having ligancy of 12, where your radius ratio is 1, that means the atom sitting in the valley and the atom at the lattice site is having the same radius. We end up with the close packed structure of FCC or HCP. You remember, while describing the HCP plane, we have defined it in the planar configuration of ABA geometry, where B atoms is actually occupying the valleys formed by atoms making 6 equilateral triangles of the base of the HCP unit cell. Is it clear? The ligancies, the radius ratios of cation to anion, and the possible configurations which they make. Or is there any doubt up to this point?
Sir, what is the difference between ligancy and coordination number?
It is the same thing. When it comes to the ionic solid, instead of coordination number, it is being referred as ligancy. The fundamental difference is your coordination number is between identical atoms, while your ligancy is between of opposite charges. So whenever there is opposite charge, it is called ligancy. Otherwise, technically coordination number and ligancy is the same thing.
Okay, sir.
Okay, let's move. So whenever your solid is an ionic solid, it can form 3 different possible types of structure. The first type of structure is called an AB type structure. As the name suggests, A, let's say, is a cation and B, let's say it's an anion. So in an AB type structure, you will have an equal number of A cations and equal number of B anions. That is, your anion and cation sites in a unit cell will be identical. They are equal in number. The another important structure with which ionic solids are being formed is called AbO3 type structure, where A and B are basically two different metal sites, and O represents the oxygen site. This is typically called perovskite structure. So any material which exhibits an AbO3 type structure, it is called the perovskite structure. Remember, here A and B will both be your metals which is having positive charge, right? And only the oxygen possesses the negative charge. The third possible crystal structure with which ionic solids are being formed is called Ab2O4. It is typically called the spinel structure, where both A and B is positively charged cation, while the oxygen will act as the negatively charged anion in the configuration. Right? So let's take the examples of each of these three different ionic crystal type. The first type of structure, which is called AB type structure, some literature also referred it as AX type structure. The most common one is called the CSCl structure, where the positive CS plus cations goes and occupy the valley site, which is lying at the center of the unit cell. Now, if you look along the dotted line, what you can see is the coordination number of CS plus is actually 8. So if you look into the ligancy rule, if your coordination number is equal to 8, that means your void is actually a cubic type void. And the unit cell is basically the primitive cubic lattice. If you take the ratio of the number of anions to the cations, then it comes out to be 1. Why? Because while computing anion to cation ratio, you should compute the effective number of atoms. So there are 8 atoms at the corners. All of them are Cl minus atoms, but their effective contribution is only 1/8. So the effective number of anion and cation in the unit cell is all equal to 1. If you talk about the relationship between the radius of the atoms and the lattice parameter A, that is the relation between A and R, you should look along the body diagonal, whose length, if you remember, is root 3a. So if you look along the body diagonal, your root 3a is equal to twice of radius of anion plus twice of radius of cation. So root 3a is equal to twice Ra plus Rc. Everybody remembers this? Now, what is the position of anions and what is the position of the cations? So the lattice positions, which is occupied by the anion, is referred as motif. Motif is basically the position of the lattice site which is occupied by an atom. In this case, the atoms are anions and its coordinate position is 0, 0, 0. Remember, we define the every corner as the origin. So the simplest representation of every corner is the family of 0, 0, 0. The cation B site is in the middle of the unit cell. So its coordinates are 1/2, 1/2, 1/2. And the occupancy is 100%, means all corner sites are occupied and all body centered site is occupied by the unit cell. The examples of solids which forms the solid with an AB type of unit cell is cesium chloride, AgI, that is gold silver iodide, AgBr, that is silver bromide, cesium iodide, lithium manganide, etc. So what you can see here is in all of these solids, generally those atom forms the cubic kind of lattice, which is having a very small cation, because for having the AX type of structure or an AB type of structure with a cubic type of void, your anion to cation radius ratio has to be nearly same. So your RC by RA should be greater than 0.73, which is typically true for those materials which is having the anion and cation radius ratio is nearly similar. Okay, there is a query. The student is asking for re-explanation between A and R. Okay, whenever you want to find the relation between A and R, remember you should look in the direction which is having highest density of atoms. So if you look into this particular unit cell, you can easily tell that your highest density is along the body diagonal. So what is the length of the body diagonal? The length of the body diagonal is under root 3a. Do you remember that? Length of the body diagonal is root 3a. Nikhil, do you remember that? Or should I explain that?
No, sir, that I remember.
Okay. So the length of the body diagonal is root 3a. Now look at along that body diagonal, how many radius of anion is there and how much is the radius of cation is there. So you can see you are having your RC, which is in the middle, and RA is at the edge, half from the two edges and one full in the middle. So your RA is 2 and RC is also 2. Is it clear? Okay, good. So the first possible type of AX type of crystal structure is the one where your unit cell is primitive cubic and your void type is the cubic type void, which is having an 8-fold coordination, or you can say whose ligancy is 8. Now, some student might have confusion that why we are calling it the cubic cell and why not the body centered cubic. Remember, for the body centered cubic, the corner atom and the body center atom has to be same. So in an AB type structure, your corner and the center of the body atom is not same. That is why it is not the body centered atom or body centered unit cell. Okay, let's look at the another example which is also forming an AX or AB type structure. This is popularly known as NaCl crystal structure. Since our primary school days, we have been keep learning this type of unit cell. Why it is so? Because many ionic solids forms this type of crystal structure. That is why it is very important to understand the NaCl crystal structure. If you closely look at the diagram and only focus on the green color atoms, you can see that the green color atoms actually forms the FCC lattice. So your lattice type in this case is the FCC lattice. and the lattice is being formed by the negatively charged chlorine ions. So you remember in FCC unit cell, the effective number of atoms is always equal to 4. Therefore, if this is an AB type structure, then your anion and cation has to be equal in number. So your number of anions and cations both are equal to 4. Where exactly the sodium ions are there in the unit cell? So if you focus at one particular position, which I am just circling now, look at this particular position, or maybe this position, or maybe this position, you can clearly see the Na plus lies precisely in the middle of the edge of the unit cell. And from our previous discussion, we now know that this position is basically the octahedral void. So in a NaCl crystal structure, the chlorine makes the chlorine anion makes the regular abscissa lattice, and the cation Na plus goes and occupies the octahedral valleys. If you want to talk about the relationship between A and R, you can easily do so. What you should do is you should look along any of the edge of the unit cell. So let me draw one line and let us look along that line. So let us look along this particular line. For the sake of clarity, I am showing it relatively on a lower edge, so you can clearly see. Let's look along this line. So your length is equal to A, which is the lattice parameter, and if you talk the radius of the atoms, then you can see half from the two edges, which gives you twice Ra, and your Rc is in the middle, so it is twice of Ra plus twice of Rc. The positions anions occupies the corner site, so its position coordinates are 0, 0, 0, and cations goes and occupies the edge center, so its coordinates are 1/2, 0, 0. If you talk about the occupancies, all regular lattice site is being occupied by Cl minus, and all octahedral valleys are being occupied by Na plus. So your occupancy is again 100% here because no site is being kept vacant. So your occupancy is 100%. The typical solids which forms an NaCl like structure is NaCl itself, then magnesium oxide, nickel oxide, lithium fluoride, titanium nitride, iron oxide, etc. Right? So many important solids which have a lot of technological applications forms these kind of structure, and the property of these solids will be governed by the behavior of the anions and cation under given circumstances. Now, even given circumstances means temperature, pressure, force, electric field, magnetic field. How these atoms will going to behave will eventually decides its properties. How? That we will talk at a later stage when we talk about the various different classes of the properties. Okay, the third unique.
Sir,
Yes.
sir,
Yes.
in the previous slide,
Hmm.
sir, can you explain the motif again?
Okay, motif is basically the term which is used to define the atoms which is sitting at a lattice point. If you remember, when I started teaching you the crystal structure, I said crystal structure is made up of lattice plus basis. So lattice is basically imaginary and bases are the real points. So the basis points that is being occupied by the atom is called the motif. Motif is basically the position where an atom is there at the lattice site. So your anions are all at the lattice sites. They are at the corners and at the center of the face. Both these positions are your lattice positions. So your anions occupies the lattice points and hence it is called motif. Is it clear?
Sir, can you switch to the previous slide?
Previous to previous? One more?
No,
This
sir,
one?
only the previous.
The NaCl one.
Yes, sir. Sir, in this, anions are at the center also.
It is center of the face, right?
At the center of faces. Yes,
At,
sir. So, how
your
can we
center of
say that
your
their
center of
position is
your
0,
center
0,
of the face.
0?
Yeah. Your center of the face is also the lattice position. Not only the corners. Your center of the faces is also the lattice point. You remember we define 4 possible different crystal structures vis-a-vis to the cubic lattice. In the cubic lattice, you have 4 possible variants, namely the simple cubic, where only the corners being occupied, the body-centered cubic, where apart from the corners, you have the body-centered position is also being occupied. In the ape-centered, face-centered cubic, all centers of the faces is being occupied apart from the corners, and then end-centered cubic, where 2 opposite face centers are being occupied. In all these 4 different crystal unit types, both the corner sites, the body centered site, the face centered site, or the end centered sites are your lattice points. Is it clear?
So, sir, how can you define the motif of anions as 0, 0, 0 only?
We define the origin at every of that particular site. You are right. If I let's say the conventional way by which we used to define the position coordinates for the unit cell, like in one of the corner we define it as the origin, so your coordinate will be 0, 0, 0. And then vis-a-vis to that, if I move to the other nearby corner, let's say along the edge, then it becomes 1, 0, 0. If I go along the face diagonal, it will be 1, 1, 0. And if I go along the body diagonal, it will be 1, 1, 1. Am I right? So
Yes,
those
sir.
were the different coordinates of the corner sites. What we are doing in defining the anion positions is we are defining the anion positions vis-a-vis to every unique origin. That means every green point we are considering it as a origin. You are getting now?
Yes, sir.
So if I am in the leftmost corner, that is 0, 0, 0. I am taking origin there. Then if I move to the rightmost corner, I am defining the origin there. If I am in the middle of the lower face, I am defining the origin like that. If you do not want to do like that and still want to follow the conventional way of defining the coordinate positions, you can do that. But in that case, see, your FCC is being made by 12 different atoms, right? And each of them has different coordinates, all the 8 corners and 6 face. So writing the motif coordinates for every atom will making it very, very complicated. So instead of doing it like that, we take the anion sites at the origin. So we define all anions to be at 0, 0, 0, and vis-a-vis to that, we define the nearer cation site, which is in the middle of the H. So we call it 1/2, 0, 0. Otherwise, all your cations will also have some unique coordinations, like you may be along X, you may be along Y, you may be along XY, you may be along XZ. So likewise, your position may be different. Am I right?
Sir, so you are defining the position of cations with respect to anions?
Yes, with reference to the nearest origin. Because if your origin is 0, 0, 0, then only along one of the edge, it becomes 1/2, 0, 0.
So, sir, if we consider the center atom of the leftmost face, it should be there are two cations. So the other would have the position -1/2, 0, 0 instead of 1/2, 0, 0.
No, no, because for that position, we again shift the origin to that corner. Okay, let's stop today because we are running out of time. What we do is, we will continue to debate this point in tomorrow's class. What I will do is, I will mark a couple of positions on the unit cell tomorrow, so that it will get clear. Right? So let's close for the time being.